At the family dinner they gave me a special gift. Inside was a $100,000 loan for my sister's kids' private school. Dad said, "You have to pay this." When I refused, she splashed wine in my face and Mom screamed, "Get out." 10 minutes later a man appeared. "My name is Alex. I'm 31, middle child, the reliable one. I fix Wi-Fi, assemble furniture, show up early, stay late, send the follow-up email nobody else wants to write. In my family. That translates to background noise. I'm not the golden child. That's my older sister Sophie. I'm not the funny surprise. That's my younger brother Nate. I'm the default setting. If something needs doing, it somehow becomes my job. I work as a financial analyst for a software company. I live in a small apartment with a stubborn radiator and a good kettle. I buy my own birthday cake because I like things simple and on time. I don't complain. I pay my bills. I help when it's reasonable. And if it's not reasonable, I've usually done it anyway because family. Growing up, Sophie got the spotlight and the standard moved to fit her. When she aced a test, we got ice cream. When I aced a test, Mom said, "See, not so hard." If Sophie wanted a $200 dance costume, Dad called it an investment. If I wanted $40 for a debate trip, he called it extra. I learned fast. Love costs more than money. But somehow I was always paying the bill. I didn't resent it. I told myself I was mature, practical, the adult in the room. I learned to track numbers because numbers don't change their minds in the middle of a sentence. I learned T accounts, sinking funds, how to read a lease. When someone forgot to pay me back, I stopped loaning what I couldn't afford to lose. Still, I went to every birthday, every barbecue, every quick family thing. I brought salads, chargers, duct tape. I held babies and opinions. When Nate blew a tire, I drove 40 minutes to sit with him in the rain. When Sophie moved again, I lifted boxes while Dad supervised. It became a rhythm. They needed, I provided, they joked, I swallowed it. 2 Sundays ago we had family dinner. That's what Mom calls it in the group chat. Capital letters, exclamation points, carrot emojis. She sent a text at 9:10 a.m. "Dress nice tonight, something special." I ignored the tone and made a mental note to bring a decent bottle of wine and pretzel buns because Dad likes those. I ironed a shirt I saved for work presentations and practiced not flinching when someone said something just honest. In the car I rehearsed lines like they were code I had to run without breaking. I can't do that right now. That's not in my budget. I'll think about it. Come. Simple. I even told myself quietly that I didn't owe anyone a performance tonight. Just show up, eat, leave. We sat around the table at 6:30 sharp. Mom's roast chicken made on his phone. Dad already on his third. Just a small pour. Sophie arrived 15 minutes late in a white jumpsuit like she had a red carpet running up our driveway. She kissed the air near my face and said, "You look tired, Al." I smiled and said, "I work." She rolled her eyes like I'd made a joke. Dinner started. Small talk about Nate's new gym, Sophie's twins' ballet recital, Dad's retirement. In quotes because he still consults, complains, and cashes checks. Mom kept glancing toward the sideboard like she'd hidden a puppy in there. Then she clapped. "We have a special surprise," she said, voice bright as foil. Dad stood, walked to the sideboard and came back with a glossy gift bag, heavy ribbon, gold tissue, the whole production. He set it in front of me. "For you," he said. I blinked. "For me?" Sophie smiled like a cat. Nate lifted his phone to film. "Open it," Mom said. "This is going to be so helpful for everyone." Helpful for everyone. My stomach tightened. I pulled the ribbon. Inside was a velvet box, not the jewelry kind. Bigger, flatter. I opened it and that was the first trigger. I saw paper, stiff cream paper with little blue adhesive flags like a lawyer sneezed on it. The top page said in elegant font, "Family Education Contribution Agreement." I didn't turn the page. I didn't look up. I just heard Dad say very gently, like he was explaining a seatbelt to a toddler, "We put it in writing so there's no confusion." I closed the box and set it down. Nobody spoke for a beat. The only sound was the clock in the hallway and the twins' giggling video on Sophie's phone from earlier. I swallowed and felt the room tilt slightly the way it does before a storm. Mom leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Go on," she said. "Read it." I didn't. I was still looking at the word family, and I think that's when the second trigger slid into place. I grew up paying in small installments. Gas money I never saw again. Group gifts that somehow became my card plus everyone else's signature. When Sophie forgot rent her sophomore year, Dad strode into my dorm with a lecture about being a man and a folder with her overdue notice. He said, "It'll ruin her credit." He didn't say we could pay it. He looked at me like he was holding a mirror I should hate. I wrote a check for $800 and ate noodles for 6 weeks. When my grandma died, we stood in a carpeted room with pink chairs, and Mom whispered that the florist made a mistake and undercharged us. She handed me a receipt like a hot plate. "Just cover it and we'll settle later." We didn't. Later never came. It never came for the dentist co-I I put on my card when Nate cracked a mare. It never came for the $250 oil bill I paid because the tank ran low and your father forgot. It never came for the $60 I slipped into Sophie's hand at a birthday dinner because she left her wallet and needed an Uber home. The amounts weren't the point. It was the system, the expectation, the casual assumption that I could be drafted at any time, that my savings were family savings, that my quiet meant consent. I learned the lingo for this at work. Scope creep. I'd agree to just help set up a budget. And within a month I was managing Sophie's entire household spreadsheet, which, by the way, she never opened. She'd text me pictures of bills and cryogy, and I'd categorize them, highlight late fees, and send her 3 action items. She'd reply, "Ugh, you're so type A." And then call Mom to say I was controlling. Meanwhile, the narrative at home was fixed. Sophie was a devoted mom, overwhelmed by the cost of giving her kids the best. That phrase, giving her kids the best, was a magic key. It opened wallets. It shut down questions. It turned wants into needs and choices into fate. If you didn't clap for it, you were jealous. If you asked how much, you were cold. The twins Lola and June are 6. They're loud and sticky and fun, and none of this is their fault. Since they were born, the family group chat turned into a fundraising platform. There were diaper drives, daycare, gap months, ballet shoes, dental sealants, enrichment. I bought what I could without resentment because it was simple and finite. Socks, a book, a birthday, dinosaur puzzle. The problem started when finite died and forever walked in. A year ago, Sophie toured a private school with a brick entryway and a Latin motto you had to Google. Tuition $50,000 per kid per year. But there are scholarships, she said. And financial aid, and they love diversity. She meant economic diversity without saying it out loud. Mom's eyes went glassy. Dad said, "We'll make it work." We pluralized, big, stretchy, undefined. I kept my mouth shut during the first meeting. I listened while Mom talked about legacy like we were donating wings. I listened while Dad insisted public school is fine except for the things. He never defined the things. They threw around numbers like confetti. Grandparents would pitch in. Maybe my aunt, maybe family friends. Sophie said, "It takes a village." And stared at me on the word village. After that meeting, I texted Sophie privately. "What's your plan if they don't give enough aid?" She replied, "We'll figure it out." I replied, "That's not a plan." She didn't answer. In the months that followed, the plan became, make Alex the plan. It started with small tests. Can I borrow $300 until Friday? The girls need camp deposits. Could you just put this on your card? We'll Venmo next week. Can you talk to admissions about payment schedules? You know how to speak their language. When I asked for paperwork, Dad waved his hand. Don't be transactional. When I said we needed to list real numbers, Mom said, "You always make everything about math." When I said debt has gravity, Sophie laughed. That's dramatic. It's just money. It wasn't just money. It was meaning. Who mattered, how decisions were made, whose yes was automatic and whose no was punished. I tried boundary scripts. I can give $X as a gift once. I won't do loans to family. I can help you budget but won't own your bills. Each time Mom tilted her head like I'd spoken Dutch. We're family, she said, as if that word settled every argument. Dad sharpened it. You're doing well. Don't be selfish. Sophie softened it. You would be such an amazing uncle if you helped with this. There were scenes. On Easter, Sophie cornered me by the dishwasher. If the girls go to this school, it changes their entire trajectory, she said. Doors open. I'm not arguing about the school, I said. I'm arguing about who pays for it. You, she said, like the answer was obvious. And everyone else. At Dad's so-called retirement brunch, he pulled me into the garage and spoke to me like a donor. There's a gap of roughly 100, he said, like he hadn't just guessed. You're single. You have no mortgage. Consider it paying forward. I have a life, I said. I have goals that don't look like plaques. He sighed. You've always been rigid. Rigid is what they call you when your answer won't melt into yes. The text started accelerating. In June, aid came in. It's good but not great. We still need help with the deposit. In July, boarding students pay less, but obviously that's not an option. In August, they'll hold the spots if we give a commitment letter. A commitment letter. That's when I saw the outline of the bag and the velvet box before it existed. I could see the paper and the blue flags. I could hear Dad's calm voice explaining a seat belt. So I practiced. I wrote my no in my phone's notes app and read it every morning for a week. I'm not paying $100,000. I love the girls. I hope you find a way. I won't be part of this. I put my phone down and felt my heart race anyway. That's the thing about families like mine. You can know the math is wrong and still feel like the answer is you. You can look at a balance sheet and see red and still, when they look at you across mashed potatoes and call it love, you want to cave. Not because you can't afford the money, but because you can't afford the fallout. The story they'll tell about you if you refuse. 2 Sundays ago, I decided the story could change. Or at least mine could. Which is how I ended up with my hands on a velvet box at our dining table. The word family glowing from the page like a dare. Read it, Mom repeated. Her smile was tight enough to cut glass. Nate's camera app was still open. Sophie sipped wine like this was a show. I opened to the first page. It wasn't just a letter. It was a full document. Header, footer, signature blocks. Whereas the undersigned recognizes the tremendous benefits of elite education. It listed amounts in neat columns. $50,000 per child per year, 2 years minimum commitment. Review after blue flags marked where I should sign an initial. A sticky note in Mom's looping handwriting said, "We are so proud of you." I breathed in, breathed out. No, I said. Silence, the kind that makes you think maybe they didn't hear you. Dad's face did the thing it does when he thinks negotiations are beginning. Son, he said, this is not a big ask. It's a commitment. You always ask for clarity. This is clarity. It's $100,000. I said, calm. That's not a small anything. It's not all at once, Sophie said quickly. Monthly installments. They made it really easy. And the school is a nonprofit, so it's basically a donation. That's not how taxes work, I said. You're missing the point. Mom cut in. We're giving the girls a future. This is what families do. We step up. I've stepped up for years. I said, I'm not signing this. Dad's voice slid lower. You have to pay this. I looked at him. I don't have to do anything. Sophie laughed sharp. Of course you do. You said you'd always be there for the girls. I am there, I said. Not as a bank. Mom's chair scraped. How can you be so cold after everything we've done for you? What have you done for me? The question came out softer than I expected. Not a punch, just a sentence that finally stood up. Mom blinked like I'd sworn at her. Dad's jaw flexed. Nate zoomed and then lowered his phone like even he knew this part shouldn't be filmed. Sophie leaned in. You don't even have a mortgage, Alex. You don't have kids. This is nothing to you. I felt the old reflex try to come back. The one where I explained my budget down to the penny so they'll see it's not nothing. I let it pass. I set the pin down and pushed the box back across the table. I'm not paying $100,000. I said again, slower. I love Lola and June. I hope you find a way that doesn't involve me. Sophie's face changed first. She went from surprised to offended to something hot and frightened. She picked up her glass and threw the wine at me. It hit my cheek, my shirt, the tablecloth red spread like a map. The twins weren't there. They were with their dad's parents tonight. But their sippy cups were on the counter, small and fluorescent like an exhibit we'd left open in a storm. Get out, Mom screamed. It was a sound I hadn't heard since I was 12 and spilled nail polish on her carpet. Get out of this house right now. I stood. My chair didn't scrape because I lifted it. Quiet. I took a napkin, patted my face, my collar. I put the napkin on my plate and my hands in my pockets so they wouldn't shake. Dad pointed at the door. You're a disgrace. Sophie was breathing fast like she'd run to the end of a sentence. How could you do this to my girls? I wanted to say I'm not doing anything to them. I wanted to say you made a choice. I wanted to say public school is not a tragedy. I said nothing. I walked to the hallway to get my coat. My shirt clung to my back. My heart thudded, but my head was quiet, which felt like a miracle. I slid my arms into the sleeves and stared at the family photos on the wall. Sophie at prom. Nate at Little League. Me at graduation. No, not me. There was no photo of that. There was one of me holding a drill next to the fixer-upper Dad bought in 2014. I almost laughed. I opened the front door. 10 minutes. Mom shouted from the dining room like she was setting a timer for shame. You have 10 minutes to be gone. I stepped onto the porch. The evening was soft, almost kind. I sat on the top stair and texted my friend Mara. It happened. She called immediately. You okay? She asked. I think so. I said they turned it into a contract. She swore. You knew they would. Then gentler. Come over. I'll make tea. I was about to stand when a car pulled up to the curb. A man got out in a blazer and carrying a little metal briefcase. He walked toward the house with purpose, like a person who gets paid by the hour and is 15 minutes behind. Hi, he said, stopping on the path. Are you Alex? I am. I'm Ben, he said. Notary. Of course. He glanced at the open door, at my wine streak shirt, at the dining room light behind me where silhouettes moved. His face did a small math problem. Bad time they hired you? I asked. Your mother? He said it was a simple family document. I exhaled through my nose and nodded. That tracks. Then looked down at his briefcase and then at me. Do you want me to? He pointed over his shoulder like he could reverse time. I shook my head. You can go in. I'm leaving. He studied me for another second. People who see a lot of signatures learn to read faces. For what it's worth, he said quietly. You don't have to sign anything you don't want to sign. I know, I said, and realized I actually did. He walked in. I stood and followed because my keys were on the console table. As I reached for them, Mom saw Ben and clapped again. Desperate. Perfect timing, she said. Her voice brittle. Sophie was dabbing at the tablecloth with a towel still shaking. Dad lifted his chin at me like a challenge. Ben placed his briefcase down and opened it. The notary stamp gleamed like an award. I can't notarize under duress, Ben said. Professional neutral firm. He glanced at me. Everyone needs to consent. He does, Mom said too fast. Ben looked at me. Do you? I don't, I said. My voice surprised me. Calm level. Not today. Not ever. Sophie's hands tightened around the towel. This is unfair, she said. You're abusing us. Ben closed his briefcase. I'll send an invoice for my time, he said, and turned to leave. Mom's face slackened like a stage curtain falling. Dad's was hot and sharp. You're throwing away your family, he said to me. I took my keys and slid them into my pocket. No, I said, I'm throwing away a bill. Sophie made a low sound I couldn't place. It might have been grief. It might have been rage. I looked at her and said the sentence I'd rehearsed, the one I'd promised myself I'd say if it ever came to this. This isn't about revenge, I said. This is about closure. What does that even mean? Mom spat. It means I'm done paying to stay related. I walked out. The screen door clicked. Ben gave me a small nod on the porch like a witness. I nodded back and stepped into the evening wine drying on my collar like a map of a country. I was finally leaving. The next morning I woke up to 36 missed calls, 54 texts, and one email titled Urgent Family. The text stacked like a set list from Mom. We are devastated. Call me now. From Dad. Unbelievable. You'll regret this. From Sophie, the girls cried when they heard we might not go. How could you? From Nate. Yo, that was wild last night. Are you okay? I put my phone face down, made tea, and opened my blinds. Sun moved across my floor like nothing in the world had changed. I stood there for a minute breathing and then did something I should have done years ago. I opened my bank app and canceled every autopay connected to their lives. No more temporary family Apple subscriptions. No more forgotten backup card on Sophie's Amazon. No more just for this month daycare autopay. My notifications pinged. You have successfully removed. At 9:02 a.m. Mom called again. I answered because the quiet was too loud. We raised you better than this, she said without hello. You raised me to fix problems you created. I said I'm not doing it anymore. We didn't create anything. We're just asking you to be generous. You're not asking, I said. You hired a notary. She paused. That was for clarity. Clarity, I repeated. Okay, here's mine. I'm not funding private school. I'm not signing loans. I'm not discussing it again. She switched tactics, voice turning thin and trembly. Think of Lola and June. I said. I'm also thinking of me. You don't have kids, she snapped as if that disqualified me from thinking. I have a life, I said. I have boundaries. I didn't before. I do now. You're being manipulated by your little therapist quotes. She hissed. This is a cult of boundaries. Okay, I said. Then consider this my religion. She hung up. At 10:30 Dad emailed. We will be consulting an attorney. Attached was a PDF titled Family Agreement Draft 2. I didn't open it. I forwarded the email to my work address because it amused me to file family under non-billable. At noon Sophie texted a photo of the twins and matching backpacks, eyes huge, mouths open in cartoonos. Do you see them? She wrote. How can you say no to this? They're perfect. I wrote back. I won't be paying. She replied with a paragraph about sacrifice and love that somehow ended with, you owe us after everything we did when you were depressed in 2019. It took me a second to realize she was talking about the time Mom dropped off soup once and Dad told me to get more sun. I typed, deleted, typed again. I finally wrote, weaponizing my mental health is a good way to get blocked. Then I blocked her. Nate called that night. Dude, he said, they're on a war path. Dad said, you're cutting off your nose despite your face. My nose is intact, I said. How are you? He sighed. Mixed. I mean, I get it. The number's crazy, but like it's the girls, Nate, I said gently. If I say yes because I'm afraid you'll think I don't love my nieces. I'll be paying with that fear forever. Yeah, he said, quiet. You're right. He paused. Mom asked if I'd get you to apologize. For what? For not being a wallet, I guess. We were silent together. Then he said, you know, Mom posted in the family Facebook group. He read it to me. It was all prayers and hard choices, and some people forget where they came from. I laughed not because it was funny but because laughing let me breathe. The next week I built a new routine like a fence. Mornings I left my phone on Do Not Disturb until 9 o'clock. Evenings I walked a loop around the park. I bought a cheap jump rope and a better pillow. I called my therapist and added one extra session to mostly talk about money. And we did. We talked about duty versus debt, about how being needed is not the same as being loved, about how saying no will make people who benefited from my yes act like I've committed a crime. On day 3 Dad left a voicemail. We'll compromise. You pay the first year and we'll figure out the second. The way he said figure out told me it was just code for back to this conversation in 11 months. I didn't call back. On day 5 Mom switched to shame letters. You will regret this when we are gone, she wrote. We will not forget. I read it twice and realized it was both a threat and a promise. I archived it. On day 7 Sophie sent a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. I threw wine. Then without breath, but if you love the girls you would try. I stared at the screen, felt a pang, and put the phone face down. I didn't reply because apologies with hooks aren't apologies. The only message that shook me came from Aunt Mary, who doesn't get involved. Proud of you, she wrote. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you get to lock and unlock. Keep your keys. I printed that and taped it inside my pantry where I keep my budget binder. I know that makes me sound like someone who alphabetizes spices. I do. It's the one place in my life where effort equals result. No one guilt trips a spreadsheet. Work got easier. My back stopped hurting. I noticed silence as something I wanted rather than a punishment aimed at me. On the second Sunday after dinner, I didn't go to family dinner. At 6:31 p.m. my phone buzzed. Where are you? I put it down and stirred onions until they turned sweet. At 6:45 my building's buzzer rang. I didn't answer. Whoever it was left a paper under my door. It was a copy of the Family Education Contribution Agreement revised with my name still printed under contributor. They had added a clause. Signing acknowledges moral obligation regardless of legal enforceability. I laughed out loud, big alone in my kitchen. I set the paper on the counter. I found a pen. I wrote across it in neat, steady letters. No. Then I folded it, slid it into a big envelope and mailed it back to my parents' house with a little sticky note. Returned to sender. It felt like dropping a stone I'd been carrying since I was 15. The thud was quiet, but it changed the way my shoulders sat. That night I slept through till morning. No dreams of balance sheets. No clocks ticking.